Am I staying? Was Adam coming?
School, you're staying, unfortunately.
You were dangerous.
No! That's Star Wars reference.
That wasn't a reference. You just said
you said the word no.
and
No, when he went no.
You didn't do it right, though. It's not even like he says it in the movie.
No!
Yeah, okay.
No, now you sound like Kermit.
Closer, yeah. I mean, you're a little creamy in the movie.
Is that Jelly Jesus?
As he's just running out of the room.
Oh. Welcome to a jiggling, protuberance bowl of dude soup.
What in the world happened there? Was that an intro?
Nah, sort of.
You should have stayed off. You should have
I
stayed
know.
off.
What was I thinking?
I think I have a theory. The more awkward and bad it is, the better it is.
Okay. That's an interesting
That's why I am-
self-confirming
schools
theory.
hear.
That's why I'm so amazing as a person, because I'm awkward and terrible.
You're right. That was awkward and terrible.
I was just going to let that one hang in the air for a second.
Awkwardness increases.
Oh, boy.
Betterness increases.
But
Okay.
No, he was just letting the opera
Yeah.
hang.
oh, he's letting
It
it hang.
It kills me inside.
Letting spool stew for a little bit. So there's a hodgepodge of stories today. The one I found most interesting is there's a survey done by Pew Research. And to start off with, this is a phone-based survey of only 2,000 people. So, small sample
Is it
size.
just cold call?
Let's see here. It says, living in all 50 states, 18 or older, 701 respondents were interviewed on a landline telephone, 1,300 on a cell phone, including 749 who had no landline. So it does
So they
sound
were
like
just
cold
like,
call.
hey, you want to do a survey?
And he was bored enough to answer, yeah.
So that between the ages of 60 and 83-year-olds replied.
I don't know
I
where
know
you
it
got
said
that upper
18,
bound
it said,
there.
it said 18
School
and
joke.
older.
That was a school joke,
It's 18
everybody.
and older, but I'm saying like kids and people that actually would probably not.
Oh,
answer
I
the
gotcha.
survey. No
I
one
don't
has
know,
time
man.
for that.
There's all
Sometimes
these.
I answer random calls on my phone just cause. I mean, they're always offering me a business loan, but
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I'll answer a random number, but as soon as it's not something I'm interested in or have time for,
Just hang
I'm
up.
gone.
Yeah,
Like,
just-
goodbye.
But what, James? What if they said, "Excuse me, Mr. Willems.
I'm already hung up. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Excuse me, James. Would you be interested in answering some questions about video
Hang up.
games? Video games.
Hang up.
Did you say video games? That's something I'm interested in.
Video games. Ah, shit. Okay, well, 2,001 people did not hang up, and here are the results.
This is like when you ask a bunch of people who have nothing to do in the middle of the day on a
Spool's
Tuesday.
right. They're all 80 years old. They're all really, really old.
They might be in college. And they're probably
like,
high.
Could you tell me how old you are? 22. Oh, my back.
But we'll see. What are the stats?
Yeah, go on.
Or what's
All right,
the-
here-
Supposing that the study is
Let's get some raw,
done very
accurate
well.
data. They say about half of all adults, 49%, ever play video games on a computer, TV, game console, or portable device like a cell phone. But only 10% consider themselves to be gamers.
Okay.
And that's about informally makes sense to me. They also found that a majority of American adults, 60%, believe that most people who play video games are men, a view that is shared by 57% of women who themselves play video games. But the data illustrates that some ways this assumption is wrong. A nearly identical share of men and women report ever playing video games, 50% of men and 48% of women. However, this is kind of the interesting bit, men are more than twice as likely than women to call themselves gamers, 15% versus 6%. And among those ages 18 to 29, 33% of men say the term gamer describes them well, more than 3 times the proportion of young women, 9% who say the same.
So basically, men are willing to call themselves gamers more than women.
Yeah, and also they both perceive men as gamers more than women, even though there's an even distribution in the gender that play games.
To clarify, this is only the stats
2001.
only apply to people that
answered the
answer
survey.
the phone.
The 80-year-olds that answer the phone.
answer the phone.
I'd say I'm a
But I mean, it's a fair argument of like saying like I guess was trying to not necessarily trying to infer anything, but you can infer or like try and take from it that like girls are either afraid to say they're gamers or just don't think they're as hardcore as you need to be to
That is
be
one-
a gamer.
That's
or
one
like,
inference you could take from that
or
study.
anything like
Absolutely,
that,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can walk away from this with. The most obvious one seems to be that men are not necessarily willing, but for the sake of this, more willing to take on that moniker, like to be a part of that group, like identify themselves so specifically with that one attribute of their lives.
I think it's surprising when you meet a man that doesn't play video games.
right?
Like, I mean, that's very rare, and just in general. Like, they may not call themselves a gamer, but they play games. A few of my friends, like, they wouldn't call themselves gamers, but they play games all the time.
Sure.
You know?
Really?
So, and like Lawrence always says, I guess probably in the 80s and 90s is when they marketed video games to young males. So at this, those are the people growing up now, and at this point, we're willing to call ourselves gamers because we've been playing games for 20 years or 30 years,
I wonder if there's like is there official like dictionary definition of what a gamer is?
Let's
like someone
find out.
that plays a certain, like you
So-
play blah, blah, blah amount of hours a week or.
Yeah, Spill, you're hitting on a topic that I find fascinating, which is that there's not really a definition for what gamer means.
Yeah.
Although the way it's used and it's like function in conversation. Oh, here we go. There's an okay gamer noun. A person who plays a game or games, typically a participant in computer or role-playing games. Huh.
That's like
weird.
Lawrence.
I don't know that I typically agree with that discussion in the way it's used today. The way it occurs to me is that if you are a gamer, you are the sort of person who likes games to the degree that a casual consumer doesn't. So if you like music, then you start to know about labels and you know about producers and you will listen to all the music from a producer even though it's different bands. If you like movies and you get into them in a certain way, you'll listen to a director's commentary. You'll watch all of these movies from a particular director, and even in doing that, you'll be like, oh, that director involved in this way and was influenced by these other movies. You start to understand the conversation around it instead of just the product itself, whereas someone else will go see Alvin and the Chipmunks Road Trip and leave being like, I had fun. That person is not really a movie enthusiast, but they go watch movies.
Yeah.
I guess so gamers would know developers, they'd know publishers, they'd
Yeah.
know the behind the scenes of video games
Sure.
and things like that.
Yeah, I think I would probably say it's like someone where one of their like primary interests is like gaming or like video games, or like one of their primary hobbies, I guess, is video games, where they go home and like most of their time is spent, not most of it, but like one of their big things they like to do is play video games. Where like people, I guess, maybe like your friends and stuff who play video games a lot, but they wouldn't consider themselves a gamer because they don't follow anything to
Right.
do with video games. They just go home, play it for like an hour or
Yeah.
whatever, and then they're done. Like then they go watch movies for like 2 hours or 3 hours. Like so it's not one there.
I'd say that definition of being a gamer as a gaming enthusiast is probably what should be the most accurate definition. I think conventionally the most accurate, like the definition of gamer, is a marketed branding term.
Yeah.
Like
Lifestyle
you drink
brand.
Mountain Dew, you
Yeah.
drink whatever,
Absolutely.
you
The
like
Wizard.
you buy a certain kind of mouse or keyboard to play your certain kind of games or what have you. Which would I would say that would also be influential in the gender discrepancy there, because I'm sure that there are a ton of women who are interested in the labels, like they'll follow certain publishers or whatever, or content creators, because that's what they're interested. Those are the type of games that they like, but may not run out to get a Mountain Dew like hardcore
Marketed to male.
Yeah.
marketed towards a male audience kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I think a lot of people think gamer is, because that's how like commercialism has kind of branded that. Whether or not I think they've branded it wrong. They've kind of taken the term, whereas gaming enthusiast is a more accurate definition.
Yeah, I think you're right. The narrative, as I've seen it, and it kind of makes sense, at least to me when I consider it this way, is that, Bruce, like you said, to be an enthusiast in something, it predicates a certain history with that. So if you like music a lot, you can like music a lot, but it takes 5 to 10 years of listening to everything you can listen to before you start to really develop a knowledge of the texture of it. So, you can like the Beatles, but if you listen to them for 5 years, you start to notice, oh, wow, their sound really changed from early to late Beatles. And then you start to be like, oh, their manager gave them acid, and that's what kind of prompted this whole thing. So you start to then get more into the subtext of it, but that takes time. So if in, the early to mid 90s, when gaming was totally marketed to dudes, that marketing got a lot of dudes into gaming. So they had the next 10 years to learn about it and get into the culture of it. So they played every Mario game, and now they have opinions about how Mario has changed. And that gets them into the gamer thing. Whereas in my personal experience, I've known women that, in the last 5 years have started playing games, and they'll play something like Journey. And then I'll say, if you really like that, you might want to try Flower. It's the last game from the same people. And then they'll play that too, and they'll be like, holy shit.
Yep.
And then they'll go from 1 to 2, what's their next game? And then when they start to get to that level of appreciating games, then they start to become a gamer, but it requires the time to do that. And I think based on the marketing, and this is again a grand stereotype, but based on the marketing, it seems women have had less time to get into the really deep culture of gaming. But I
Yeah.
think that's changing.
Or there was a stigma when they were growing up and playing games that maybe they were not, one to talk about how they were playing video games because other girls didn't play, or who knows? I mean, like there might have been a stigma on them that there wasn't with us. Like when I was a kid, it was cool to play video games. It's like, oh, like he's got a PlayStation, an N64. Like that was a thing when I was a young boy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like it seemed like, especially nowadays in the last like 10, 20 years, like for guys and men, like it's cool to play video games and stuff. Where maybe like 30 years ago you were a nerd if you played. Like it was totally the opposite. And like if you're in the 70s and 80s, you're like you're a nerd if you're playing video games. Blah blah blah. And then eventually like became cool, and nerds became like, just in general, nerds are cool. Like Star Wars is super cool. And, like everything's super cool now to be nerdy for guys at least. For girls, are still, I feel like there's still like a little bit of lag of like, it's, if you're a nerd girl, like most guys that are nerdy are going to accept you, but like other, like I think girls are maybe, I'm not trying to speak for girls that are in this case or anything, but like maybe like they're afraid of like a lot of jock guys, or like normal traditional men that aren't nerds, or like will look at a geek girl or whatever.
I mean, I think it's about barrier to entry, right? Like, and so like you said, if you go back to early 80s, 70s, like before it was just easy enough to plug in a big machine into your TV, into the wall, and start going, it was a little bit harder to take on that process. You might have a personal PC that you had to load games onto, like, and figure out how to kind of make them work with your system, right? And so it'd be a little bit more complex. Also, PC gaming has gotten, I think, a lot more accessible because of how the barrier to entry has gone down. Like, I remember trying to install games in the 90s from like a CD-ROM, and it would just be like, nope. And I'm looking at the instructions, I'm like, oh, there's 5 steps, and I did all 5, and it's not working. And so, like, when it didn't work, that put up the wall for me, and I didn't get back into PC gaming until maybe a decade later, like something like that. And so when it got easier for me to get in. So if there's a barrier of entry that's complex technology or something like that, that is already going to close down the group. If the barrier to entry for modern video games, let's say like 95 till now, is that kind of marketed towards men, like, then like, I don't know why you would necessarily think I want to entrench myself in this culture. Like whether or not you pick it up despite that and enjoy it is an entirely different discussion, but like there's barrier to entry there. And so as the barrier to entry goes down, now games are like, there's a ton of female protagonists to choose from. There's identifiable cool characters. It's not all gunman shoot, which isn't necessarily to say that's something that only men would want to play. Yeah. But it's like
marketed towards males though.
There's a ton of stuff, and on your phone and on PCs and on consoles and everything. Some of it's entirely genderless, like Minecraft is like entirely genderless and stuff like that. It's like it could be for anyone, anywhere in the world. Really cool. And so you're going to get more people that are willing to play it, and it's not going to matter.
Lawrence, I'm curious, what brought up this topic?
The research poll.
Oh, well, I mean, like, what you were talking about, because originally we were going to talk about censorship. What happened to that?
Oh, it's still in there.
We got another topic.
Oh, okay.
I just noticed that the past couple of podcasts, that's been a recurring theme, mostly because it's been a part of the conversation in internet culture for the past month or so now. And every week there's usually something new to talk about. So we can get to that.
The reason I was asking is because we talk about this, I feel like, almost once a month.
Yeah.
Where like there ends up being a study, like you said, we find out that basically just as many women are playing games as men, but they don't identify themselves as gamers, or they, like they're playing different games, or they don't, maybe, or there's even a stigma on them that like maybe they shouldn't be playing games or whatever, which is ridiculous. And we like to, proliferate the ideas that everybody should be playing video games. The more people that play video games, the better the video games become.
Old, young, girls, boys, everybody.
Everybody. I mean, like, that's important to video games in general as an industry, is that the art gets better if there are more people playing, and it becomes a more ubiquitous hobby.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that we say all the time, and I was just interested to see what brought it up for you.
Well, personally, it's just it kind of fired the spark in my head that it was an issue of time, not necessarily. At this point, I think it's an issue of time, which is much better than it used to be. Just the idea that now we have an equal split of people who are playing now. Rather, the self-identification is the thing that seems to be lagging behind. So why is there a disparity there? And to me, it's a factor of time, which is great, because hopefully that means in 10 years we'll have just as many women deep in the gaming culture as there are dudes.
Yeah.
Because the conversation when you get deep, like in forum threads and stuff, where people are really hashing out, like, oh, I like this jump arc. I don't like that concept art. I would like that to be a little more egalitarian too, because I think opinions can be a little homogenous there. So just as somebody who dives into that culture and reads that stuff pretty constantly, it gave me a shred of hope that and the idea that gaming is now pretty 50-50 split is not new either. It's just the time lag between that and who self-identifies as somebody who's deep in the culture. So yeah, hopefully that'll catch up too. I think it's getting there.
It is.
Sure.
It's, I mean, it absolutely is. I think we're seeing changes right now. I mean, like, not only in our audience, but just in general in the public, which is good. I think that's really good for everybody.
I can't wait until all those elderly people that answered the phone and pretended to be young people that played games can get on the gaming train too.
Do you think they'll watch this podcast?
Yeah, they're big fans.
They're big fans
Big
of us?
fans. All 2,000. All 2,000 of those. They just called one senior living center, actually, because those are the only people that pick up the phone and go, "Hello,
Are you my son?
Yeah, yeah. This is my grandson.
This is kind of related.
What games?
Did you guys see that ARC video I linked in like the Funhaus Slack the other day of
heard
like
you
that
talking
old
about it.
we were talking about it the other night. There was like this old maybe like 75-year-old woman playing ARC and it was like super fascinating. John Reisinger was like, I watched the whole thing. It was like a 30-minute video or something like that because he's so fascinated with it. But like it got me thinking because she's like kind of playing through it and she's playing it really slowly. Like she plays it better than we are. Like she knows kind of what she's doing.
Really?
She plays it better than us because she kind of has a focus and knows what she wants to do. But she's really slow about it. Like she's just like she walks up to a ladder and she like takes her like 4 or 5 tries to like get up it, which to her credit is
She has
kind of
bad
annoying.
hips.
But she's like she would come at it at an angle and you had to be straight on it and like
okay.
couldn't get. But so she was like trying to back up and trying to like move her like view around and stuff. But just watching it, I was like, I know she's not like the quickest at playing it and stuff, but at least she's trying and like. Something like sparked in my brain. I was like, if they need to get like games like this and Minecraft, and like I know they've done Wii a lot in like a lot of old folks' homes and stuff like that. But they need. I was like, they need to get like Minecraft and this kind of game, like kind of creative, like open world building games and stuff in front of a lot of like older people because I feel like it would help a lot of them. Like my grandpa like suffers from Alzheimer's, and I know like it wouldn't necessarily help with like saving someone's memory or things like that, but I feel like just keeping them kind of sharp and like using their memory and using like kind of like
Exercising their brain.
problem solving skills and stuff like that versus sitting in front of a TV or like not doing stuff like that. I like thought like games like that would be crazy because you always hear about like trying to get games in front of kids and things, but not so much older people where people have kind of like left them to their own devices. Like they've lived their life.
They've got the time.
That's true. They do.
They've got the time
Right?
to play
That's
all
what I
those games.
figured.
Nintendo sold a lot of DSs to old people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Brain Age. There's a
Yeah,
game
yeah.
specifically
exactly.
using medical research presents you with a certain tasks and they're all gamified, but it's like solve simple math problems quickly.
Yeah.
You know, here's a grid of numbers, tap them all from 1 to 10 really quickly, and those are kind of like yoga for the mind to do that kind of stuff. So that was the idea.
Exactly. And if they do that all the time.
Yeah, no.
Don't worry, you're far away from having to get your
I don't know about that.
elderly games. Fingers crossed that we get VR all sorted out by the time we're
man.
old.
Oh yeah.
And then we just
Leave
put
your
the helmet.
decaying
It's like,
meat
it's like,
behind.
all right, are you ready for retirement? And then
Oh,
you just
man.
sit in
Yes.
the chair.
Oh.
You sit in
there's
the
an anime
chair.
girl
They,
riding
they
you?
hook up the tubes or whatever, and then they just go. You're like, goodbye world, goodbye.
You're just so happy to
You
leave them.
and then you're just in it, and then you just do your virtual life until your body
I was
ultimately
going to say, and then
dies.
you die right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's
That'd
like
be awesome, huh?
But your brain
like
goes.
You,
Soylent
just, you
Green,
say
man.
goodbye to everyone. You say goodbye to everybody. You're like, I'm going in.
It's like
Yeah,
Lord of the
goodbye.
Rings when they sail off to that island.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Lawrence, at the very end of the
Did
movie.
you ever beat Soma or did
Yeah.
I know you were playing through Soma and stuff. That touches on a lot of that stuff of like how
Spoilers!
do you stay as yourself? Did you play it too? Didn't you?
I
He hasn't
finished
got
You
that
didn't beat
far.
it yet, but like the whole idea of that is like people's minds, what makes you you, and like your mind going like transferring to a robot or like into like the Matrix basically or stuff like that. Like, are you still you, or are you like a shadow of yourself, or like a copy of yourself,
I'm
or
just
like
an old man.
Guys,
Right?
in the
chair.
usually we're farting and breaking things.
I know,
but
right?
We're solving the world's problems.
It's
right?
the set. The
We're
set.
doing it. Up next
yeah.
is World Hunger.
Censorship. We're
So
talking about
space food.
censorship.
Well, I don't know. So it's weird because I've got two very elegant transfers. I can go to Censorship, or Ken Levine talked about his next game, which sounds very identical to Soma.
I want to talk about censorship.
But you do?
I do,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, first, I'm going to censor you, Bruce.
Okay.
First, we have to mention that this podcast is sponsored by Lenovo and Game State. So if you're unaware, this is a collaborative game development program that Lenovo is putting on with their Game State program with the developers of Dark Rift. Essentially, you can go to LenovoGameState.com and contribute. And you having trouble drinking there?
Every single time I take a sip
spilled it
out of
all
this
over
thing,
himself.
it fizzes up and it just explodes.
All
and
over
it explodes
himself,
on my
he
mouth. Right before we started,
all over us.
right before we started, I was like, "Oh, I'll just get a sip of water real quick." And then you take a sip, and then it just
Oh, yeah. Shit.
and it explodes every time.
All right, well,
Every time you can.
Sorry, go ahead, Lawrence.
Let your creativity explode all over LenovoGameState.com and contribute to the development of Dark Rift, which is actually pretty cool. We got to talk with the devs, and they're just really genuine, cool guys, really good.
They are.
We got another one coming up actually.
Yeah, we do on Friday. We're going to meet with them for another 2 hours and find out what they're working on.
Cool.
Better make the best game ever.
Or else what, Spool?
People won't buy it.
Oh, well, that too.
So elderly people will buy their games.
But it's time for Mission 2. They break up the milestones of the development project into missions. Got to gamify it up. It's called Mission 2 Defend Your Territory. You can check out exclusive fly-through footage featuring different levels in the game, and then tell them what you think about it. Comment, suggestions, things like that. So please make sure to leave your feedback either on the website or using the hashtag GameState. It's powered by Lenovo Y series computers. And go to LenovoGameState.com and leave your feedback now. You can also check the link in the description if you want to get involved.
It's really cool. I mean, I think it's really neat that we're involved in actually changing the face of a video game.
It's a lot
Or
of
they're
power.
just going to ignore everything.
Or
we
they're
say.
gonna ignore us.
and it'll
That's
probably
true.
still be an okay game. So a lot of what we champion is like understanding the development process before you're like extremely critical of it, and this is good for us because we are there. We're getting to see a very close-up view of the development process, which I think informs our own opinions. But hopefully, the content that comes out of it will let you can follow it. Like you can follow it, and you can see how the progress of the game is going. So the next time you're like, I'm really pissed off about those frame rate drops or whatever in a game that you would have otherwise enjoyed, you'd be like, well, I understand what they had to they chose to sacrifice this for the sake of making this better, and you don't realize that you're enjoying this because it's good.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I don't know, it's important to inform yourself about the process before you start making judgment calls, and that's what we're trying to do.
The internet disagrees with you, James.
Oop.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, moving on to censorship. So this whole conversation has been really fascinating to me, not because typically when there's angry people on the internet, I like to point and laugh. I think that's pretty obvious. But this is a little different, mostly because it's about boobs and I love titties.
Who doesn't?
Amen. So
That's a good question.
this has been kicked off recently. That is a good question.
Everybody loves boobs. It's obvious.
Everybody.
Come on.
You're right.
I already know the answer.
So actually, it's a pretty simple question. But this was kicked off because there have been a number of I won't say high profile, but very, very titty games that have either have not been announced for release in any Western market or have been changed for release in Western markets. Talked about it before, so just to recap, like Xenoblade Chronicles X, when you made a female character, you used to have a slider for the boob size. Nintendo of America took that out.
He's Googling it.
Okay.
Do they
I'm just
default to
putting it-
small
making
then?
a
Like
mental
the smallest
note.
No,
size?
they default to medium, right in the middle. And then there was some stuff about in Bravely Default. There used to be like little belt costumes you could put on your little dollies, and they changed that to be more covered in the West. Dead or Alive Extreme 3, a collection of mini games about titty ladies that fall in water and then their tops pop off.
It sounds
They're just
like
called ladies.
the
Lawrence.
perfect game.
Yeah, they're elegant ladies. You have to give them presents so they like you.
That makes
It's an
sense.
accurate simulation of dating. Koei Tecmo left a message on their Facebook wall basically saying we're not bringing it out in the West because that culture is a little more sensitive to how women are depicted in games. And this doesn't seem like a good fit.
They called us pussies, basically.
Maybe they did.
They
Kinda what
can't
they did.
handle it.
Maybe they did. So Kotaku ran a pretty great article it's kind of summarizing this whole debate. They talked with a localizer. His name is Alex Smith. And he said something that I think cuts to kind of the core of the issue, which, again, this is a gamer talk, but it gets down into the issue of games are commercial work, and the people who really want the titty games are mad that what they assume the creator's vision of titties is being changed because people in our culture aren't as receptive or open to that. Here's the quote, and I think it really summarizes it well. Something intended to be simply humorous or risque in a Japanese game might come across to an American gamer as creepy or worse as pedophilia. Keeping the problematic content in there with the intent of preserving the creator's original vision is misguided, because the creator presumably didn't intend for the audience to feel uncomfortable or offended. The original vision is better served making adjustments so the new audience appreciates the work as closely as possible to the same terms as the original audience. So I think when a person gets upset about changes in localization, I think that is neglecting the difference in culture, specifically that Japan's pretty fucked up about that kind of thing.
We were having a discussion yesterday, which is like once you put your art into the world, I guess it sort of matters what you think of your art and how you interpret it. But if millions of people decide to interpret your art in an entirely different way, that's what happened to your art. And at that point, it's theirs. And I think you say it all the time. It's like once we put something on the internet, it's theirs. It's not yours anymore.
It's like GIF and GIF. The guy that created it calls it GIF,
Yeah.
but everyone else calls it GIF. So it's
Except
GIF
for me, I
now.
call it GIF. But
It's GIF
regardless, no, yeah, I mean, like that's once that art's out in the world and millions of people are saying, well, this isn't right for our culture. This isn't right for me. It's creepy. It's creepy. And like that's just sort of what happens.
I think the resentment there is those people used to not say that, or rather, they weren't so vocal about it. So it did and this kind of goes back to the anger a lot of people have towards feminist frequency, or people who just in a most optimistic sense just ask for variety. They want Gone Home and titty games theoretically. I'm not here to judge whether or not that's the actual tone. Personally, I want Gone Home and titty games too. I like Gone Home. I like titty games.
Why not combine them?
That would be great. Cool. That would be
Make the
fantastic.
perfect game.
About lesbians
Right?
hiding up in the attic.
We
You
would've
have to
found
solve
them.
puzzles
Yeah,
and boobs
yeah.
flop out
Did
at
you ever watch The L Word? That's kind of what it was.
True.
Oh really? No, I didn't.
I've
watch
been
the L
watching
Word.
the L Word.
The L Word, yeah, that was a lesbian show, but it was sexy.
There's
It was
boobs.
sexy.
Are they big?
Lesbian boobs.
Lesbian boobs?
Most of them aren't big. No.
I didn't think so. No, they're real
They
lesbian
don't have to be
boobs.
big, guys. They're just boobs.
Yeah.
They're just nice.
You appreciate them all, just like all games. Some are small, some are big. Built for speed. Teardrop, melon. Who knows?
Eggplant.
Yeah.
How did you know all those terms?
Yeah, I know.
Pyramid?
He just has those back there. All
Man,
those
that's really
descriptors.
good.
What else is in my head?
Banana pancake.
What?
Like
Banana.
Think about it.
with
I don't
discs
wanna-
embedded in.
I don't want to.
It also feels like part of it is not only the culture difference in terms of how they've interpreted things, but like the tendency to be reactionary. Like
yeah.
like I almost wish that they were like, we don't really want to release it there, and we don't really want to release it that way there, because you guys tend to like get like really like reactionary.
It's almost-
so that way everyone would go, no, we don't,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
like freak out, and then it's like, I don't know what to tell you.
It's-
You're
Yeah.
doing it right
It's
now.
almost like the Valve and like Half-Life 3 thing of their reason of not doing Half-Life 3. It's because like you guys will freak out. Like no matter what we do, you're gonna freak out. Like might as well,
well, we
not
don't
do
know
it.
that that's
That was
valid
that was one of the reasons we reported on.
That was one of
Yeah.
the reasons
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
was reported. That
And as far as I'm concerned, I think that was honestly one of the less reliable parts of that report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to believe that, I mean, people are human and they have feelings, and those feelings influence their decisions. But when you're a big company like Valve or Koei Tecmo, you've been around as long as you have, you tend to not run on gut. You tend to run on data.
Yeah.
And if your game, if your titty butt slap game, only sold 30,000 copies in the West, it's something like that. The last one didn't sell all that well, and now the environment does seem to have changed. Now you're looking at it and you're like, gosh, it is just not worth. It is not worth maybe breaking even to invite all this frustration and headache on our PR department.
yeah.
And
The
to a
demand.
degree, that means that a certain group on the internet was correct, and that they were mad that the games landscape was going to change because this other group that typically never spoke up and never had a voice is now saying this is gross and we would like something else. The saving grace there is, and I wish people could fucking grasp onto this, you can still import Japanese games. If you want games from a gross culture with some messed up gender issues, go do that. More power to you. And if they see a lot of imports because they get that data, maybe they'll consider releasing it here. But I think money kind of drives the whole process.
Yeah,
a good
it's all-
example of this in the U.S. is the Arkham Knight release.
Oh, yeah.
We talked a lot to a few people that basically had been involved with the game, and we found out that Warner Brothers didn't really want to invite all the problems that came with releasing the PC version of the game. And they're like, the more that the PC audience complains about a port and how it doesn't work and how like certain drivers don't work and sometimes it crashes and sometimes the frames per second aren't as high as they want it to, then they're not going to release a PC version. There's, what, screw it. We'll just do the console versions. That sells a ton. The PC's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've talked about. It's like, no, don't do that. Like, stop whining. Basically, they'll just stop making the game. If you continue to whine, they'll just stop. And that may be a thing here with Koei Tecmo. It's like eventually they're just gonna be like, you know what, we're not gonna put the game for you anymore. Here,
Or at least pick
who
your
cares?
battles.
Yeah. No, I know. Like,
know?
they don't want you to have the game. All right, well, guys don't get the game.
The kind of funny thing with that is like an aside is like with games like Fallout and stuff where even the console versions are coming out buggy as hell as
Sure,
well.
but they were.
And like game breaking. Well, no, even game breaking bugs and stuff on Xbox and things like that.
Really?
With Fallout, at least, yeah. So it's interesting because now everyone's going to be starting to shout. It's going to be that's a whole other like topic of like patching and DLC and stuff like that.
Well,
Which,
I
by the
think-
way, we have the benefit of being able to enjoy
Yeah.
patching and
Yeah.
not necessarily
Instead of buying a
DLC,
game
but
and
but
it's
yeah,
just
like oh, I mean, I played Arkham Knight and I started trying to play it soon after it came out. Didn't work. Didn't work on my system for whatever reason. I have an NVIDIA graphics card and it's like pretty standard stuff. It didn't work on my system, but then I gave it like a month, and then I downloaded a patch, and then it ran just fine.
But you didn't get to play it right away, James.
I didn't get to play it right away. That's true, but I did get to play it, and I feel like it was worth it. So I don't know.
Was it you
Some people may still be waiting. I have no idea, but for me, it was just a matter of waiting until they could just go, all right, here's your fix.
Was it you that had your Bloodborne save get like corrupted
Oh, yeah,
or broken or
Bloodborne.
whatever?
Yeah,
That's
Bloodborne.
an exclusive.
Against all my better judgment, I decided to start playing it, and then it just went, brr, and I like quit out of the game because you're supposed to do it a specific way, and you're not just supposed to turn off the console. And I did it, and then when I went back in to again reluctantly play the game, my save was just corrupted, and it was just screwed up, and then I got flack, and people are like, just play it again, and I'm like, no, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
You didn't have to. But I was patient, and then I waited, and then there was a patch, and then I tried it again, and my save worked. So, yes, I didn't get to play it on my own personal schedule when I wanted to anytime, but, like, it fixed itself, and that's kind of...
It's important for the audience to know that the more we whine, the more we complain. Also be informed that if you complain about a very small portion of what this company is making, like the PC version of Arkham Knight, eventually they just won't do it anymore. And then you won't have anything to complain about at all, because it'll be gone.
So what Bruce is saying is shut the hell up.
I mean, not sometimes,
And
not
just
always.
play your
It's
games.
Sometimes
Enjoy
not
your
always.
games that you have.
It's important.
I don't know. I agree and disagree. I think that the state that Arkham Knight launched in is probably not okay.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think to a degree they were testing the PC market with that. They're like, let's see if we can get away with it. Oh, we can't get away with it. But I also think if Steam refunds didn't exist, they probably would not have pulled it because a refund is a negative sale, and that's a concept that doesn't exist in PC. It doesn't really exist anywhere.
Yeah.
You can't return new games to GameStop. You can't.
It's true.
You can't return a PC game until now.
At least not for full price.
Yeah, you can trade it back in, and then they'll
yeah.
resell it as used, and then they get a double dip on that sale.
Yep.
Steam doesn't work that way. They give you your money back, and unit sold goes down one,
Yep.
which is a pretty new concept in terms of retail. So yeah, with refunds there now, sure, it empowers the audience to use a really strong word, punish a publisher for putting out a bad game, and it does give them some protections, but also, yeah, it can mean less games, and maybe that's just market force. I don't know that customer negativity really factors into that. Moreover, that you would like to think that if a developer spends a long time on a PC port of a game and it's really good, that it'll sell really, really well, and everybody will see that, and they'll be like, oh, we should do that too. But that has yet to be the case. The PC market, to me, the big problem with PC is that nobody buys games at full price, and games are getting more expensive, and also PC games sell about 1/10 as many as any other platform.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a more demanding audience that refuses to pay as much,
Right.
and also doesn't sell as much. So yeah, I love PC. I've been a PC enthusiast since '95 when I could buy one for the first time. I love the platform, but gosh, from a money perspective and a logistics perspective, it's looking kind of worse and worse for the big stuff.
Especially now that consoles have digital downloads and game download. That's what PC had over them for a long time.
Yeah.
Was like you could just go to Steam and just download a game. We're now on like Xbox or PlayStation, wherever you can just digitally buy a game and just download it. Like that's kind of going away. The biggest problem, I guess, with that now that's holding them back is like just space on like on a hard disk or whatever, and like how games are getting huge and with consoles.
Yeah, but that's going to get resolved.
It will, yeah.
Extremely fast.
I think the two examples here of like the PC market whining about it and then not getting the game, but then also the people that don't want the Koei Tecmo games, they just don't want them at all. So I guess their mission is accomplished at this point. They're saying, well, this offends our sensibilities, and then they're like, all right, well, we're not going to give you the game. They win, right? That's what they wanted. I think it's the opposite for the PC, where it's like, they're whining about, we want better games, and eventually just not going to make it anymore. I'd be very surprised if Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we're gonna give you a PC port of the next Batman game. I'd be very, very surprised.
I think it'll be there.
I hope so.
I think in the emerging trend seems to be we'll get we'll get the console versions out the door. We'll spend all QA on console first.
And then like a year goes by, right?
Maybe more like 4 or 5 months, but it's like post-launch. Then we can move all the QA onto PC, get that game out. Hopefully people buy it, but probably won't.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft did that for a while. I think it was also kind of they wanted to discourage piracy. So the idea was if a certain part of the gaming populace had a console and a PC, and the game was out on both, they could just pirate it on PC and not spend any money on it.
Interesting.
So Ubisoft was like, okay, for those consumers, we can make them paying customers by not releasing the PC version for a month. Then we get some extra QA time, and then also if they want to wait for that experience, they can.
And now a lot of PC gamers do not like Ubisoft for that and like various other reasons.
So, yeah, I was frustrated by that too because I played games back when Ubisoft had their like Heartbeat DRM connection, and yeah, sometimes my internet would go out and it'd just be like, you can't play anymore.
Yep.
What the fuck? But at the time, Ubisoft was the only publisher releasing most of their AAA games on PC at all. So they were trying to make it work, and I respect that. They were trying to figure out a way to squeeze money out of that platform.
And figure out piracy and how to stop it and stuff because it was so rampant for so long.
One thing, just to go back to the censorship issue that kind of spun us out into this, is just like...
Keep going, I gotta pee, like real bad.
Uh-oh. Go.
Okay, all right.
The protuberance.
We can talk.
Not the protuberance.
Old peanut bladder Lawrence.
We're buds.
Listen, if you think that you're not gonna like a game, can you just don't play it, man?
Right.
Like if the boobs are too big for you, don't play it.
James, that's not the way the world
I know.
works.
I absolutely know
works.
that. I absolutely know that. But you brought up a really good point, which is that there's some people out there that are like, they're filing their complaints with the hope of improving things. And there's other people out there who are filing their complaints with the hope of just taking
Destroying
away
it.
something
Yeah, I don't know.
that they weren't even going to play.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's just utterly destructive.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, and I think that's why that's why I brought it up because it is totally destructive. There is really they think that I guess the PC market thinks that when they complain, they will get a better product.
Yeah.
And history has shown that that's not what is happening.
Yeah.
But with with the censorship issue, they're winning, and to be honest with you, I'm trying to think of a counter to that. I don't really know how to.
I mean,
First Amendment.
And again,
I can say do whatever I want.
I mean,
when
yeah.
I say it, I can do it.
When we say they, we don't mean a specific forum or
No,
a
no, I
specific,
mean,
but like
just whoever's complaining about
it's
it.
culture in
Dissenters.
general. It's
Yeah.
kind of just weird cultural sentiment within multiple communities. But it's like, come on, like censor yourself. Censor yourself.
Yeah, and I think that is people are learning that over time. I think that's getting more and more important for like our generation and things like that. I think we're getting we're realizing all right, well if that exists, it exists over there.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to complain about it over there.
Just don't
too.
go to that place.
Right.
It'll be
Yeah. Just
okay.
don't go to that place. Exactly.
And I'm not trying to incite any sort of community wars or whatever, but it's like also maybe don't get really that angry at the developer or the publisher, because trust me, they like we always say, they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
And they have crunched the numbers.
And someone
they have ultimately come down to the monetary conclusion that it's not worth their time or their effort.
Yep.
And so like that's not really on them. They shouldn't like there's a ton of things that I would love for people just to make for me and just send to me. And I'll toss them $60.
Right.
But it's going to cost $3 million of research and development to bring it to me. Like, oh yeah, I got plenty of ideas that you can send my way.
Yeah.
plus outsider investors and everything.
I understand. I understand why that is not going to happen necessarily.
Yeah. I'm really trying to figure out a solution to this sort of censorship thing because I mean, like there.
You gonna bring down censorship once and for all, Bruce?
Well, no, I mean, like we, honestly, the United States is trying with, like you said, the First Amendment. It's like there's no, we're not supposed to be doing that sort of thing. But culturally speaking, since this is a hobby and it's, it's elective, it's not something that's required.
Yeah.
We can't say like you're censoring us. Like it's not really like that at all.
It's not like journalistic, like.
Yeah, no, there's nothing
anything
there
like that where it's like you're going to be really missing out if they actually censor.
Like James said, it's just more about personal responsibility.
But it's also like that kind of comes. It's a cultural thing, right? Where it's always been like the U.S. doesn't really care about violence and explosions and
boobs,
and guns and stuff, but like super sexualized stuff. That's where like moms and across America get up in arms.
And sexualized young characters like preteens and teens and stuff. It's weird. Don't
It
get
is
me wrong.
super weird.
I'm on the side of it thinking it's weird, but it's also a 3D mesh model with
not
textures
real.
on
It's
top
not
of
real
it,
at all, yeah.
and so that's already weird. Like, even if it was, like, this character's 34 years old. Like, still kind of weird. It's a 3D mesh. Like,
Right,
it's
like
not.
Lara Croft.
There's a level of weird, but then there's another level of weird. That's fine. No one's really getting hurt.
Well, that's debatable, and I think that's the big difference in perception.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
It really is.
Man, the word that feminist frequency is obsessed with is pernicious. I don't know why it's in everything, but the idea is that the depictions of gender roles in media becomes part of a culture's like texture, and then that informs how people act and believe in their day-to-day lives. And you could argue it's the same effervescent argument that people threw against violence in video games, and there's no clear link between violence in a video game and then acting violently. It's tough because the data that is there is loose enough that people can interpret it however they want. So I'm not arguing that it's a question of belief, but a lot of people seem to react to it that way, which is two people can take the same data, and if someone loves titties, they'll say, no problem, I'm in the clear. And then somebody who's maybe kind of tired of seeing titties everywhere will say, well, this clearly shows that this just makes dudes believe women are objects, and they're things to be won with their big gun man dicks by shooting other good big man dick guns, and then they win the sex.
Yeah.
And to hear young men describe their dating problems, it's hard to say that's wrong. And maybe that's more than video games, and maybe it's more than media. Maybe it's just garbage that's baked into our DNA. Because we're hairless apes. Some of us a little more hairy than others. But that wasn't meant to be an insult, by the way. I was just looking at you.
Hey, I'm really hairy. I don't care.
All right.
Yeah, I don't care.
So I don't know. It's personally, I feel that there's really no right or wrong answer. I wish people could be civilized about the discussion. So I don't know. It's a really fascinating topic. And while I'd like to believe it comes down to personal responsibility, I also have to leave the accounting in my head that maybe there's an effect that people don't even notice because it's so subconscious. I don't know.
I guess. I mean,
It's hard to quantify.
Exactly.
Human society has been pretty fucked up for a really, 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 really long time. It's always not my counter, because like I don't care about countering. I just live in my own kind of little world.
Sure.
And try and move through everyone else's. But like, yeah, things have been pretty horrendous for basically all of human history, involving violence and sex and gender roles. Like, it's been pretty bad. So,
Well, supposedly society is supposed to be improving, right? We're supposed to be getting better.
That's
Yeah.
why we censor the boobs.
So, well, I mean, people say that yes, some people say that no. So, like, that's sort of the question there is like, ideally, we're getting better.
For or
Ideally-
against boobs?
I'm for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love boobs.
But then, like, once this discussion goes and then it becomes an issue of, well, it's open to interpretation, then people will take that and be like, okay, that means I got to win. Like, I got to
Yeah.
take to the streets and make sure the interpretation becomes mine.
yeah.
So that's when it gets gross. When people treat it like psychological warfare or even informational warfare. We have to make sure that our side wins, that our interpretation of the world is the one that comes out on top. And yeah, that's when you get
Because otherwise, what have you been doing? What have you been thinking?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of confirmation bias in that regard, where you believe something, and to
Yep.
prove that it wasn't all wasted time, you then have to post someone's information publicly on the internet, and I don't know. That's when it gets a little gross.
That's why people scream their console's better than someone else's
Yeah,
console
'cause they bought
or
it.
like whatever else. Yeah, you want that confirmation.
'Cause they bought it.
You want the. You don't want buyer's remorse. Be like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't get the best thing, or it's not my way of the world.
Yeah.
Isn't the best.
Life's greatest struggle is just trying to get through it, living with your own decisions.
Ooh.
That's the greatest struggle any human being will ever face.
James
Boobs
Williams.
for all.
Yeah.
Unless you climb Everest. That's tough too.
I want that decision to put
Yeah.
boobs in front of me. Real or not, don't care. Well,
Hashtag yes to
not.
boobs.
or not is so much simpler though.
Yeah. I
You can
guess
just
it is.
hey, no problem. Just got to answer some probing questions about what you're into, but
Probing.
yeah,
Nice job,
that
Spool.
also probing.
You really picked up on that
I
one.
know.
That's
Probing.
That's
Got
subtle
it.
there.
Probing.
Well, now's a good time to mention that this podcast is also sponsored by Clash of Kings. Are you ready to join thousands of other clans and war to control kingdoms? Speaking of violence, conquer kingdoms and villages in Clash of Kings Last Empire, a new RTS RPG multiplayer war game that pits your army against friends and enemies all over the world in a battle for towns and cities. Do you have what it takes to stand amongst lords and lead your army? You're not the only person building an empire. Prevent a siege by building up your town. Send out your army to take over other cities, collect their resources, and conquer their empire. Are you ready to stand as your town's leader? Start building your empire and lead your army into epic multiplayer strategy battles today in Clash of Kings Last Empire. Available on the iTunes App Store and Google Play. Download Clash of Kings now and find out.
But what's their boob slider like on that game?
Well, they had Kate. They
have Kate Upton.
They used.
Oh no, that's Game of War.
Ooh,
that's Game of War.
Oh, find out. Okay, I couldn't even. I was like, what am I finding out? I have to find out. Hold on a minute.
He has to go find out.
I have to find out if I'm ready to stand as my town's leader.
Are you?
I downloaded it.
You should know that in your heart, Lawrence. You don't need to Google it.
Are you ready? Do you have your crown?
There's a lot of politics.
That face that he made, that means he's not ready.
Yeah, I mean, it means he's not ready, yes. But even if he were ready, there's still a lot of
You
politics.
could be like the vizier or whatever. You could be like the guy behind the king. Like you,
Oh, yeah.
he'll
Wormtongue.
die.
You'd be
I'm the
Wormtongue.
Jafar.
Wormtongue, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a much cooler reference than the one I made.
Jafar?
Yeah.
I see. I thought Jafar was the cooler reference
Yeah?
than Wormtongue.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Which one is cooler?
Put that to the
Jafar.
vote.
I think Jafar is cooler.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Then Wormtongue?
Than Wormtongue.
Let's go Littlefinger. Let's make it
Jafar got further.
Oh,
He actually
Littlefinger, that's
became
cool.
he actually became sultan for a little
Yeah,
while.
and he
true.
became. Here's the thing.
had a genie.
Here's the
And he
thing.
can turn into a snake.
Here's the thing about Jafar. When Jafar gave himself full power,
Ultimate power, right?
Ultimate power, right? What did he do first?
He got ripped.
He got ripped.
Yeah.
He did?
He got ripped.
Yeah.
He was
He got
like,
fucking huge.
all right, well, I'm not going to be scrawny anymore, and he made himself ripped. Now muscles factor in nothing.
I was gonna say,
the
not
power
'cause
of
he was a
genie,
genie, right?
It doesn't matter.
Who
He turned
cares?
into a snake shortly thereafter.
for the look.
Clearly, didn't matter. It's not like he punched Aladdin. He just got ripped, and that means Jafar is cooler. He had his finger
point.
on the pulse, and he knew it's
Man,
important.
it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, that really is.
Wormtongue just got fucking tossed out on his ass. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
no, he ended up going like throwing in with Saruman. So
that's
he ended up
right.
becoming like more powerful with the other wizard. Now, by the way,
still
now that I
wasn't
just said
leader.
that, Wormtongue is less cool.
Yeah,
than Jafar.
that helped.
Oh, man.
Jafar
Stick on-
wins.
Jafar got ripped. Wormtongue did other nerdier things.
Jafar
than he
wins.
had already
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
I think that was a statement on corporate America. If you get fired, you'll just go get a better job after this. Who
No,
cares?
absolutely. Yeah, always.
Okay, so let's roll back. Set the Wayback Machine about 25 minutes ago
Oh.
when Spool was talking about Soma.
So many things.
Ken Levine was on the Game Informer show. I think it was prompted by the announcement of System Shock 3, because at Looking Glass, Ken worked on System Shock 2. It's a fantastic game. Holy shit, I love that game. But he dropped
It
some
must be
hints
really
about
good. Everybody says it's really good.
I've
and I
never
haven't
played it.
so I don't know.
I played it. It's
I haven't played it.
I was tempted to say it was like good for the time, but I played it about a year ago and it holds up.
Wow.
It's a late 90s PC game, so it's a little.
Should we play it on
No.
one of our game
No,
plays?
you shouldn't. You'll make fun of it and it'll piss me off. But here's the first kind of hint he's dropped about his next game, the next game from Irrational, even though they're down to like 20 employees or something. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
very small.
He said, "I'm so deeply involved in the themes of our new game is a science fiction game. It involves themes like artificial intelligence and what it means to be programmed.
Chappie.
Yeah, that you're Chappie. That you are a thing that was created by programming. That's a big thing in the new game, or a big theme in the new game. And how much agency you have outside of what you are as a piece of programming instructions. So I'm scratching a lot of those itches in the new game already. He's referring to, do you want to go back to System Shock?
You're like
Make the
Mr.
system.
Smith
You are like Mr. Smith.
in
You
The
mean
Matrix.
From The Matrix?
Because he
That's
was
two Matrix
he was
references for you.
because he was
Two for you in this
programmed, and then he
podcast.
went outside his program and wanted to be bigger than he
Mr.
was.
Smith?
Yeah, Agent Smith.
Did you just watch The Matrix?
He didn't go outside of his programming,
Oh, okay.
though.
All right.
I
That was
don't-
the big difference between him and Neo. Neo had free will because he was a human being. Smith did not. He was slave to his purpose.
Yeah.
And the moment he achieved his purpose, he was undone.
Yep.
Because that's his only reason for existence. I actually got into the philosophy of the Matrix movies. No one else did.
So do you
but-
think Ken
Jesus.
Levine is doing the Matrix video game movie?
No, he's doing the same. So he did this in BioShock. It's a thing that a lot of games do, and everyone thinks it's cool. But I think it's getting less cool the more games do it. Which is comment on the fact that in a game you really don't have free will at all.
Sure.
BioShock did it. Spec Ops: The Line did it, which is pretty cool. But there are only so many times you can like really cleverly hit that one thing before you start to realize it's the only thing you can actually hit.
Yeah.
Because games are also machines. They're finite state machines. They can't generate new states for you to be in. So therefore, you can only really do what the program allows you to do.
Except No Man's Sky, which has the
Yeah.
potential for everything.
Oh, Spool.
Any chance it gets to mock it?
Your bitterness towards No Man's Sky.
Procedurally generated, Lawrence. It means it can do anything you ever imagined.
That reminds me.
Still has to follow procedure.
Yeah.
I need to dig out. Yeah, it's still
it generates its
algorithmically
own
generated.
procedure.
Nope. That's impossible. It's AI.
I need to dig out the. I need to dig out the No episode where I called reference to Spore way early because I know a lot of people are going to be doing that, and I want to make sure everyone knows I put a flag on that
You
ground
did.
early.
You did. I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah, I
I
said
will
it too.
always
Good.
vouch for you on that one, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is all I have. This and my little protuberance. That's all it.
You got to go to the doctor, buddy. It doesn't hurt.
No. It's just
I'm
wait
worried
until
about
we're
it.
like-
It's
just
like a
feels
dead
weird.
area of its body. That's
I think
trying
it
to
might
get out.
be some sort of cyst.
well, okay. So
My guess is hernia.
You think he's becoming a Darth Lawrence?
Cyst? No, I think it's probably like obviously benign. It's not malignant.
Should he fly though? We're gonna be flying in like a
Pop,
while.
The pressure,
Oh, it might
the
pop.
altitude.
oh, that'd be cool.
It'll drain all on your body.
That's fine. Things on my body have popped before.
Do we want to show that on the podcast? You want me to push it on the podcast?
Can you
I don't.
see
It doesn't poke
You
out
can't see
enough.
it.
I need to lose more body fat.
Oh,
Clearly.
really? Because I could poke a little bit.
See, it's weird. We did some WebMD, some communal WebMD before we came on.
Good.
And I think it's related to drinking. I know.
I'm sure it is.
I'm probably the first human case
No.
where repeated binge drinking has caused some kind of medical issue.
The first
That's weird.
patient 0.
I know you're not patient zero.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Pretty sure drinking has no adverse effects.
He shared a drink with a monkey.
That's a cool monkey. You can do shots like a mad dog. But so typically, if I drink pretty heavily, my stomach's a little upset the next day.
Of course.
And
As is everybody's.
right, pretty normal, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is. You know, we had 2 pretty heavy nights back to back, and my stomach was a little upset.
But that's normal. I mean, like, was the cyst there before?
I never poked at it before.
But it was there.
He's like, my memory's a little fuzzy from any time before I drank, so I don't remember.
So the only time, like, what happened now is I was just like, ooh, my tummy, and I like squished and something moved, and I was like, boop.
That's weird.
I was like, that's weird. And then there's something I do, which is unwise, but if something's ever weird with my body, I just mess with it a lot.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
I just like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I just kept doing that. And now I'm worried. I don't know.
You should go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah, probably.
Number two, it's probably just some sort of, like I said, like it's benign. It's just a weird growth. Who
there
knows?
A Rooster Teeth nurse? I was asking this the other day. I figured with all the shenanigans,
not elementary
I figured the
school
shenanigans they get up
school.
to, that people get hurt on the daily here in Austin.
Probably true.
On
That's
the
what-
daily.
No, that's what
On the daily.
That's what all the liquor's for.
Yeah. Oh.
to give you cysts.
You
There's
sell
just a
us-
World War I triage nurse who hands you a bottle of whiskey and tells you to leave.
Bite on this piece of wood.
Yeah.
I think you should go to the doctor, but also I don't necessarily think it's anything you should
I don't
be
think
worried
so.
about.
Nah. I'm going to give it a day or two. Let it go away.
It's not going to go away because it's been there for a while.
I don't know that.
He doesn't remember.
Day and a half?
It could be a great opportunity to change your life.
Eh.
Okay.
Why? Man, that would suck.
James. Okay. All right.
I gave it a try.
Lawrence, you don't have to binge drink. You know that, right? You can just drink normally. Like, have a drink.
Well, he needs the effects, and
Yeah.
because he drinks so much, he's constantly chasing that dragon.
Oh, yeah.
So,
No.
like,
I've mechanically shut it down. I only drink like once a week. Is that too much?
But do you
how much do
binge
you drink?
Depends.
To get drunk?
No, not necessarily.
To have an altered state of any sort?
I mean,
Or do you just like the taste of alcohol?
I feel like once a week isn't
Do you
too
like the
bad,
taste of
unless it's,
alcohol?
like,
some
8
alcohols,
drinks.
but not the.
So most times you're not drinking it because you're like, this is good, right?
Well,
Yeah.
once
You're drinking it because of what it's gonna do to you.
Well,
Yeah.
once a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Once a week. I like that Lawrence is honest, by the way. Once a week for years is not good for you.
Okay.
So if you're doing it once a week for like a stretch of a month, maybe not so
a
bad.
binge month.
That's a binge month.
It's
That's
like,
almost
every
like a
month.
bender is what it is.
It's the
Too late for
purge.
that. We're past that.
No, yeah,
We
it's
need to make a movie instead of the purge. It's called the binge, and one night a year, Lawrence just gets just
but it's not
shit
one night.
faced.
It's not one night a year. It's like one night a week.
I don't
Yeah.
see. I don't know. I don't get shit faced that often.
No, that's what you'll have to do.
Okay.
Everything that you've
Well,
kept up inside that you're
enjoy this movie.
you're just gonna let it out, and you're just gonna drink absolutely as much as you can one night a year, and then it's 24 hours. Anything goes, and everyone else is gonna barricade their doors to make sure you can't get in. You're gonna be running around
It's just
naked, wearing a clown mask with
Man.
a bag of something, maybe body parts over your
that
shoulder.
Santa?
That is absolutely not what happens. When I get to that state, I just park myself in front of a computer and watch weird YouTube videos.
We're still gonna barricade our doors.
Probably wise, because I'm going to want you to watch them too.
He thinks he's watching YouTube
Or he-
videos, but it's really real people's lives. He's just like barging down into their house.
Or he pees in your closet. Don't forget about that. He might pee in your closet.
God, I wasn't even drunk
That's
that night. It's
important.
weird.
You absolutely were drunk. Well, I will confirm for
But
you.
I sobered up before I went to sleep. I just
Clearly not. You peed in his closet.
I don't get it either, man. I've gone to sleep way more drunk than
Just
that.
say you were
Nothing
drunk.
happened.
Just admit.
I mean, as far as I know, shit.
I think
Maybe everybody's
objectively,
politely
we
keeping
can,
it from me.
there's always a little room for perception, like we've been talking about.
I would like to
Maybe
think I'm pretty
Bruce
mastered at
thought
knowing.
you perceived you in a certain way, but when you get up and you pee in his closet, I think you're objectively drunk.
Did you take any medication before you went to sleep?
No.
Does
Okay.
vodka count?
I mean, that's not a
So
medication.
you weren't like hallucinating or like some other side effects. It was the alcohol.
Do you sleep? And because I remember Lawrence telling me he never slept walk either. Like you didn't do that very often.
So you consciously.
It
did
has happened like twice in my life.
Twice in your life. Okay.
One-
I'm guessing it was the Four Loco.
3 times.
I'm just gonna say it
Four
was the
Loko?
Bad news.
Four Loco is
just
bad.
sugar and booze.
It said
Yeah,
it has
a lot
crazy
of
in the
sugar.
name.
It's a lot of sugar.
That's crazy.
The worst
Four crazy.
nightmares I've ever had were after drinking like a lot of Four Locos.
You
The
remember
worst nightmares. I mean, just like like I generally don't have nightmares. I generally have pretty good dreams. Just demonic entities, constant feeling of being pursued.
Did you meet the Four
horrific, and then
Locos?
I'd wake up and it had been 15 minutes since the last time I checked the clock, but I had been dreaming for what felt like hours. Like just a never-ending nightmare,
That's like salvia.
which is actually on the bottle.
Never in a nightmare. In a can.
So they even
man.
sell that in
350?
America anymore?
Oh,
They
yeah.
do,
They
but it's
changed
not.
the
It doesn't have
formula.
alcohol,
Oh, yeah.
right?
You gotta
Or
find-
something.
No, they took out caffeine. That was the only thing.
Oh, that's what it was.
a
I
bunch
was like, they took out something from
bunch
it.
of dumbass teenagers. It's dumb. It was just like a bunch of dumbass teenagers drinking it and then not feeling as drunk as they were because the caffeine was hitting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got crazy drunk on it. Also, it's really sugary, so
then died.
you know babies can drink it because they haven't suffered yet. So teenagers would just get wrecked on this stuff and then ram their car into a tree. So it sparked a mini moral panic.
I've never felt more alive.
Basically, same as a vodka Red Bull. Exactly the same.
Yeah, if you have too many of those, you get totally screwed up.
Yeah, but
bad.
you know, little babies don't know. Whereas I have mastered
No,
every
you
cell in my
haven't. You peed in
body.
my
Hey,
closet.
there's a part of your body that's literally trying to escape the rest of you because it doesn't like
crawling out.
being soaked in vodka.
Everything likes that. So it's I don't know.
Self-cleaning.
Just in something that maybe seems like wisdom, but is actually pathetic that has to be said out loud. Totally sober until the pain goes away.
What? Wait, hold on. What do you mean?
Until his little protuberance decides to suck itself back
Oh,
in.
okay.
Oh, you're not gonna
Sober.
drink anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's great.
For like 4
Fingers
days.
crossed it doesn't go away.
Are you
that's
still
great.
gonna
It's not
see a
by the way,
doctor?
It's not gonna go away. You're gonna have to go to the doctor.
We'll see.
They'll have to cut it out
So
of you.
here's the thing. I don't know if it's normal. So here's the other thing. I've been losing weight. So it's like
Everyone check for protuberances.
this is something that's been happening recently where there's just all these kinds of bits of my body I didn't know were there because you're basically kicking off all these layers that weren't there before. So I'm discovering all sorts of weird
So you're
shit.
saying-
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it might just be a cyst that's benign. Maybe it has nothing to do with drinking.
Oh shit! You think it's just been there forever, huh?
Could be. Huh. It's a very real possibility.
Never thought about that.
Like, I mean, my dad's had those, and he doesn't drink like you. So
maybe
Or that you know. Maybe you should.
Yeah.
Anatomically,
Maybe
what's-
it's like an alcohol pouch of alcohol that's
Oh, yeah.
saving it for later when you
Ooh,
need
it's a
it.
little
Like,
shot. It's a little shot. You just poke
Like a
it. It's
candle.
shot.
your body's evolving.
Man, this is a
bud.
bad movie. So, what anatomically speaking, what's right above your belly button? Nothing.
I have no idea.
It shouldn't be
Intestines?
anything. Should
Literally
just
no
be-
clue.
Should just be meat, right?
Because your stomach
yeah,
is like
the
at the
stomach.
bottom of your diaphragm.
And your
right?
abdomen. And then that's a
Intestines
layer of
going-
muscle, and I think
Like,
it's your
what's
stomach.
right there? What's
you talking about
that might
like
be a
your-
little low for your stomach.
You're talking about internal organs?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where's
Oh,
the
I don't know.
appendix
It's-
over
I
here?
think it's like
somewhere?
the small intestine, right? Which one's the longer one? The
Spleen-ish?
small intestine.
Small intestine.
liver.
But that's lower than you'd think because it needs to come out.
we
I
have
always,
another
I always have to
acronym?
remind myself that I have the
Oh, we
poop.
don't? Oh,
Nah.
that's sweet.
It has to. The
Close
large
mouth.
intestine has to go all the way around the top and then
Yeah.
come out my butthole.
See, okay, that's the other thing. Is after I drink, my digestion gets a little off track.
Of course.
Yeah, so
That's normal.
Maybe it's just a backup, man.
No.
For this many
don't
days?
think?
It shouldn't
That's
be
not
One
for this
and a
many
half.
days. It shouldn't be there.
1.5.
I mean,
Maybe
go
it's
get a
fuzzy,
colonic
though.
or something. You should go get a colonic.
That's
Suck
what
it right
sounds
out.
like.
You know who gets those? Adam
Cruise?
Kovic.
Does he?
He does.
He
and
would.
He might very much enjoys them. So
He probably has them
He
shove
says that
other
they're
stuff
great,
up
and I
there.
totally believe him. You're supposed to get a colonic.
Yeah,
Like,
you flush out that butt.
You're supposed to flush it out.
Flush that butt.
Yeah, I've never
We should
done
all go
that,
get
but I don't
colonics
have
We
it.
should do
sometime.
colonics together.
Don't you?
Let's do
Forget
that.
about me.
Yeah, I want to flush my butt.
That'll be. I'll pay for it for everybody.
Christmas
What?
gift?
It'll be a Funhaus expense.
Can we opt out?
Can we film it?
Sweet.
Of course we can film it.
Fuck, that'd be a good video.
I do that.
I think I want to go to a colonic. They show the window where that's
Where
what's
you see all the
happening.
water
yeah,
flowing
what's
through?
flushing out of you. Then
Oh,
you get to see the
man.
pieces go by. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool because when you eat a lot of red meat or whatever, it lives in your small intestine, and large intestine.
Does it turn back
you need
into
to
the
get out
animal
of,
you
you need
ate?
to get it out of you.
This is all adding up. I had
Jeez.
When we
Epiphany.
arrived on
I know you had 2
Friday
steak
night.
dinners in a row or something.
No, just one, but it was 22 ounces of red meat that I crammed into my body and then drank extremely heavily right after.
You had
it's
the
a
cyst
horn.
before, Lawrence. It wouldn't
Are you
just
sure?
appear. I'm positive.
I didn't feel it before.
Hernia.
I
It's hernia,
think,
though.
like you said, I think it's because you're losing weight.
So you're saying I've had a steak baby
Listen,
this whole time.
we need to flush our butts.
We need to flush our
We
butts.
gotta flush them.
By the way,
you
the
all
flushing
flush
our
your
butts is not going to help him. 'Cause that's a
No,
cyst.
I don't care. This is about me now.
Maybe it's my large intestine poking out a little bit. There's
I
a
don't
meat
think so.
baby in there.
I think I'm really worried about you.
I don't think
Can we
that's how it
weigh
works.
ourselves before? We should weigh ourselves
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, then see how
and
much
then
you
we
lost.
flush, and we can see who lost the most percentage of their body weight by flushing it out of their butthole.
Lawrence, can I ask you, do you have stomach pain on a normal day when you don't?
I don't have stomach pain now.
Good.
I was
Okay.
dialing it up.
That's important.
It's just a slight pressure. It's like there's the mother of all farts that's waiting to let go.
Oh, no.
And you didn't notice this until
On the
a few
plane,
days
it's
ago.
gonna happen on the plane.
Yeah, but that's also when the pressure built up. So typically what happens is the day after I drink very heavily, I have the digestion system of an old man.
Yep.
Like farting all the time.
Yep.
No solids. No thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what happens to me too.
Yeah. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the phase I'm in now.
When I
Except
drink beer.
this time, a little bump.
You got a little buddy there.
So maybe it's just old man shits working their way out. I don't know.
Nope.
It shouldn't be that
It's
far.
definitely
You
not.
should be able to feel it.
You got to go to the doctor.
All right. Well, it's time for me to go, doctor. It's also time for the podcast to end. Thanks everybody for enduring the last 10 minutes there. A little
Yeah.
harrowing, but
No, it's
James,
good.
I'm curious.
Informative.
If you were to compare your Four Loko Nightmares with watching the detritus from your ass fly in front of your face,
Yeah.
which one is worse?
Well, I would probably be okay with the stuff coming out of my ass.
Yeah?
Because that's for my betterment.
Yeah.
The nightmares are literally punishment for things I've done wrong. it's like karma immediately coming. It's basically like going to hell. You've lived a horrible life. Now you're going to hell, and you have to literally experience
Your eyes
your
like held
sins.
open as you see everything.
That's what Four Loko nightmares are. Whereas the colonic is you're actively working to purify yourself, and you're expelling the badness.
demons.
You made a conscious decision to improve your body.
You could argue the nightmares are that too. It's catharsis. You're mentally working through all of the negativity built up in your head.
I guess so. Maybe they can flush me with Four Loko.
Oh,
Can you imagine?
that would give him like immediately cancer.
My butt's
Right
all
away.
my butt's all sticky.
You get cancer.
I think
right
it's
away.
the sugars. It's got the sugars got in my
Immediate
anus.
cancer.
It's in my cracks.
I'd never considered that. All right, let's go get a Four Loko enema.
I gotta pee.
Sorry, people. I want Half-Life as well. Dearly, I love
Well,
those games.
that's kind of my hope. I think I'm hoping we're getting to this level.
We got
of trans-
Wolfenstein though.
I would love to get to this level of transparency where Valve can just come out and go, look, we're not going to make it. We didn't want to make it, but
can't
we
do
would
that.
love to shop it out to someone else. Like similar to Star Wars, where George Lucas shouldn't be making Star Wars anymore. We've learned that. J.J. Abrams, though, he's a Star Wars fan. I'm kind of excited to see what he does with it. And then Rogue One and all these other guys who are working on these, the guy from Looper, I forget his name, Ryan Johnson, like all these guys who are clearly like big